It's Enrico Pallazzo!
Utah, give me 2.
Pallazzo!
Utah, give me 2.
Welcome, everyone, to your Monday evening. We're back on Mondays, and our Pallazzo Prospects Power Hour. With me, I have my man, Robbie Baseball. And Robbie, did you realize it is the National Day of Beer in the United States? So you cracked a cold one, and I realized this after I got home. I have a calendar that has all the national days, what the national day is, and did not realize that it's either the National or International Day of Beer. And I was like, well, I'm kind of feeling bad that I don't have a beer.
I thought I saw a video on Instagram said it was National Titty Pick Day, but maybe that's what follows after the beer. I don't know. Maybe it's later in the day.
There we go.
Maybe it was another video. I don't know.
I can tell you, there's a lot of husbands that are hoping. No, actually, I'm going to reel back for just a second and show the shirt I have on. It showed up in the mail today, a day after.
Nice.
So,
does anyone out there know, before we spill the beans, if you are watching us live on YouTube or Twitter or wherever else, because you can find us everywhere, pop it in our chat and let's see. We'll give it till the 5-minute mark if anybody can recognize Ben's shirt and the excellent content creator. Is that how we would call it? That is the shirt.
And the specialty of this particular shirt. So, but anyway, we had a busy week last week, Robbie. There was, according to Cespedes Family Barbecue, I don't know how many folks still are following them. Great Twitter account. Even still today, it's still a good Twitter account. But Cespedes Family Barbecue said that this is the most trades that have ever occurred on trade deadline day.
Oh, really? It was a total?
Yeah.
Oh.
It was
okay.
Well, I think that they had a total too, but that's a hard one to define, because what is trade deadline range? How far back do you go?
24 hours before or whatever. Yeah.
But yeah, they said the day of, this was the most ever. And so that's I think it was 70 something trades that they had documented.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which that seems like high, but I'm not going to debate them on that.
Transactions like releases and designation, variations on it. But okay, I didn't count anything. I've just done it, so I couldn't say that that's right or wrong. But
I found a tremendous advertisement commercial for us to break us up in the middle today. So I'm excited to talk about to play that one. So we're going to get started right away, and we're going to talk about some folks who made it up to the major leagues for their debuts. Some of this trade deadline related. There was a hole created. Some of them just because they're good players and finally earned their way up. I don't know. A few relievers here. Luis Curvelo with the Rangers. Dugan Darnell with the Rockies. One to keep note of, Alex Freeland came up with the Dodgers. Not sure the playing time that'll be there for him, but he is an interesting player at least. Jeremiah Jackson once was a big prospect.
I still have him in one league, and when I thought he was up, I'm like, that's impressive. Like, I've just left him in my minors, and seeing him come up, and I forget, he got a few hits right away, so his average was silly, and I thought, like, okay, cool, like, give him an opportunity.
And he is I want to say he's played right field his first game or two. Like, he's playing outfield more than he's playing.
Started 3 straight
infield.
I will quickly look.
So the other one, Troy Johnston, is a guy who I've liked in the minors for quite a while. Finally getting a chance at first base in Miami. They've kind of had a revolving door at first base so far this year, and they're finally giving him a shot.
Right field,
CJ Kafis made his way up this year, already, which that's honestly, that was unexpected because Cleveland didn't do a darn thing at the deadline. So they really didn't create a hole that CJ Kayfus had to fill, but they brought him up anyway, and that's good for him.
I got a quick question for Chad here. Sorry to interrupt your flow, and then continue, and I'll answer after. You need my help. I've read the question down below. What kind of league are we talking here, Chad? That will like severely impact the return based on the list of players you have given below. Are we talking points, roto, head to head, and what kind of cats, etc., and then size of league, because that'll impact. And your minors, give me as much information as you'd like, so I can give you the best answer between the three guys.
So nobody probably had as exciting a debut week as Jacob Marcy, who came up for the Marlins. And in the first night he was in that it was like 17-16 game with the Yankees that the Marlins won. Game. And he, I believe, he scored the winning run. He walked like 3 times, but each time it was during an important time that the Marlins needed a base runner. And then he had like 2 or 3 hits the next day. He had a really good first weekend. This is just a big speed guy. I don't think he's going to hit 600 the rest of the year. It's probably not likely.
It does seem to be trending downward. However, like you said, the speed is a fun thing for a team that could let him continue to try. Right? Yep. You're fast. You've sold whatever it was, 40 some bases in the minors. Keep her going. Yeah, for sure.
Luis Morales, when we talked about where there might be opportunities to trade in your dynasty leagues to pick up on a rebuilding team, we mentioned the A's rotation as a possibility, and Luis Morales came up. We said pick him up. Might not be an exciting number 1, number 2 fantasy starter, but this is a guy who could be a pretty consistent number 4, I think, as far as a fantasy starter. Pearson Ole, I'm not sure where he's going to fit for the Twins.
Right.
They have such a need in their bullpen, and he was really good out of the bullpen in the minors earlier this year, but they brought him up to make a start, and they've kind of had him doing long relief in St. Paul. So I don't know where they're going to fit him right now, but he's the last of our debuts to talk about. Now, to that question.
What, if I'm not mistaken, the Twins lost 13 of their 26-man roster traded away 13, something insane, right? So there's always an opportunity for someone like this who people are like, I don't quite know this guy, whatever my league format is. I'm not just going to randomly pick up a guy, but nobody rosters him. Watch and see what the manager puts him in over the next 10 days, gives him 3 or 4 opportunities, or gives him 1 or 2. 1 or 2 is no trust, no knowledge. 3 or 4 is throw his feet to the fire and see how he reacts. And if you see him coming in to start an inning, that tells a little bit more about the manager's confidence in him than to come in to say mop up after, the bases got juiced and 2 runs came in. He's not there to try to stop the bleeding as much as he is to just probably throw whatever it's going to be, 30 pitches. So he is an interesting case. CJ Kayfus is also an interesting one to have been called up because he's going to be playing the outfield, I believe, and this is pretty much going to stop Nolan Jones from trying to level off his year and turn him into a platoon player. Not that wouldn't have, he hasn't had a good year, Nolan Jones, anyway, but on a team that has clearly decided to go the other way, and we'll discuss it in talking about their trades, including, trading away Bieber, who hadn't even started for them yet. They just turned away before looking to go deep. It is an interesting one that they did. So prior to talking promotions, Chad's question was, I'm trading Riley Green to the owner of Arun Namala of the Blue Jays prospect depth. Who should be the secondary piece? And I'm assuming this is to not insult and to get the deal done, so that you're doing your 2-for-1 in a proper way. Because if you are, now let me see here, you said 10 categories. Thank you. 14 teams. So does that mean that if you won 8 categories and the guy won 2, you'd get 8 and 2, or you would get 1 victory? I'm only asking that because I do play in leagues that do both formats, and I find the one that if you win 8 categories and lose 2, it better represents the strength of your team, which means balance it out for your return. But if it's just win or go home, then you need more stars than fillers. But you've got Jose De Paula, Schultz, Arun Escobar, Bryce Rainier, Cash Mayfield. of those guys, total cuts. Thank you. So that means you can spread your wealth. Now, Schultz obviously is somebody who I am quite a big fan of, more prospect value, but I think it really depends on your trade partner, whether that one's going to go through or not. Cash Mayfield, I think, would get done quick, except by the other guy, and then that one could pay off for you long term. But again, Mayfield is not, accelerating up the board. He did stick around in San Diego, though, so that means he's going to go next year.
Yeah.
Their second round pick, Boston Bateman, who I think will probably bring the name up at some point tonight, but he was dealt. And that was one of their other kind of big high school prospecty guys. So, I mean, Rainier, to me, give yourself the double tap on the potential of stardom, and you're giving up somebody who should be a long-term MLBer, and neither of these guys are guaranteed to do anything. So I feel like if Nimmala is the main target, as much as I like Schultz, I would say maybe double tap on the position players. And then if that's not going to work, then sure, go to Mayfield. But again, to me, that's a harder return to say, give me Nimmala and Schultz, because I'm sure there's a lot of prospect draft within that. So, and yeah, like you're saying, like I've seen the boy. I've also inundated in my area with anything he's done well. There will be 4 articles about how good, any of the Blue Jay prospects are that do anything. And the fun part is that the system, because there aren't any Canadian minor league teams, Vancouver, there aren't any local Canadian minor league teams. They love to talk about a lot of the guys in Dunedin, I think, because they can get a lot of coverage on the lower level guys. And then, of course, Buffalo, which is our closest one.
So here's a little something just to keep in mind with Nimmala. I love Nimmala. Think he's got ridiculous talent. He has absolutely gone in the tank since the 1st of June. I believe, let's see here. I'm pulling it up to do 182, 283, 292 slash.
Is he in Vancouver now? Is that right?
He is in Vancouver.
Yeah.
50 strikeouts and 219 plate appearances. So that's not crazy bad.
No.
The walks to strikeout isn't bad. 9 stolen bases, 3 homers. In that, like I said, 218 plate appearances. So, but 182 batting average, and that's not like just BABIP driven. It is low BABIP, but I mean, over 48 games, BABIP, you kind of lose the ability to claim BABIP when it's
not a bad park. They've had several minor league championship teams coming out of Vancouver. And the Blue Jays used to quite often take their college drafted players and assign them there, because I can't remember if that was short season ball before, and now it's full. I think that's what it was initially when they were winning.
Vancouver, that whole league, the Northwest League, was
it was a short season league, right?
A short season league. But Nimmala is a very interesting guy just because he's had these prolongated streaks. I just don't know what to do with Nimmala, because when you're into a streak or into either a slump or a positive streak or a negative streak, however you want to run it.
Right.
If you're riding one that long and that's going to be kind of your persona, that's really a hard major league profile. So
I feel like after he got promoted there, he hit a ball insanely hard, and that was the big launching point of him being like, oh wow, like he's so good. And then that has been the end of the articles for him. And since then, it's just been that he's a top prospect within the Jays. And that's what happens when you're not
290. The first 2 months of the year, he was like 290.
Yeah.
And then he hasn't hit 200 since. So, I mean, it's kind of if you go the month by month. So there has been some concern. And we're still also talking about a guy who 13 errors in 76 games. So there's still a lot of youth.
But that's pretty typical for the Blue Jays organization. They don't mind.
Yeah, this is true.
Defense not a priority. Just cue Vlad playing third base and Bichette throwing baseballs in all directions.
Oh gosh, that was
the one thing they haven't been able to do is hammer out. I mean, I guess they did do it. Like Justin Smoke was their last elite defensive first baseman, but they did have Encarnacion playing a serviceable first base, and I guess you can call Vlad serviceable, but They need the guy that you can just throw a ball within 15 feet and he'll end up, snagging it and bringing it in. That would be an asset. Now, Ty France, I don't know exactly how good his defense is coming aboard, but that's not going to be something he gets to do because it is Vlad's call. But anyway, Ben, let's move on to promotions on the minor league side so that we're not getting too long in our tooth. We're not having a prolonged delay into our main topic for tonight. Dun-dun-dun.
So the obviously this week, as I went through the minor league transactions page, normally there's like 2 days that have 3 pages and everywhere else is like 1 or 2 pages. One day had 8 pages. Every day had at least 3. So lots of movement right now. And a large part of that is because complex season is over. And so there's a bunch of guys moving up and or being released because they need to move up guys from complex season, and somebody who has just been kind of crap at full season ball all year is getting his walking papers. So I don't have a single guy mentioned in here who's coming from complex to A ball, because that is a very, very large contingent of guys this week. So we're talking about mainly guys that are interestingly moving up from full season ball to another full season ball league. Just so nobody jumps up and goes, oh my gosh, you missed this guy who's now in A ball, or this guy. Right. This is why. The first one, Miguel Bleis with Boston, is up to Double-A. Blake Burke, first baseman with the Brewers, is up to Double-A. Connolly Early, one of the left-handed pitchers who's really had a solid year this year in the Boston organization, is up to Triple-A. Aaron Estrada, second baseman with Baltimore, only 20, is now up to Double-A. Kyler Fedko, this is an interesting name for folks who may not know who he is. Already has a 2020 season, pretty close to 25 at this point. There's a shot he can get 30-30 with the Twins, and he's now up to Triple-A, and that's a team that definitely has available batting time. So if he can keep producing when he gets to Triple-A, there's a chance that Kyler Fedko gets some major league time. But coming up right with him is Gabriel Gonzalez, who has really had a solid year. Nothing like, holy cow, this guy's hitting, 30 home runs or stealing 30 bases, but just a really steady year. Plus he's hitting 300, which, that'll do. Joshua Kuroda Grauer is a Rutgers draftee, a guy that that the A's drafted out of Rutgers, and he got up to Double-A now. Ivan Melendez,
I remember that.
Finally up to Triple-A. It's been a while that he has been stuck in Double-A, which doesn't say a lot of positive things, because their Double-A park is about as hitter friendly as you could possibly want. So if you're not producing there, buddy, it's going to be a rough road. But he is up to Triple-A. Braden Montgomery is up to Double-A, which that's really good to see. Nelson Rada, now this is the one that I like, 19 years old, is now up to Triple-A with the Angels system. And a guy that we're going to talk a little bit more about later, left-hander Kendry Rojas, was traded from the Blue Jays to the Twins, but he was promoted to Triple-A before he got traded, and the Twins have kept him in Triple-A, which we all know they got rid of a lot of pitching, so opportunity there. Mikey Romero is now up to Triple-A for Boston. He's kind of been playing around the infield, but hitting everywhere he's played. Oliver Santa is up to Triple-A for Houston. I still don't know what he's going to be, if he's going to be a reliever or he's going to start. Travis Smith, a guy that we talked about, a late round draft pick with Milwaukee, he's up to High A now. And, Arizona did trade both of their corner guys, and Tommy Troy got moved up to Triple-A. So little interesting to kind of watch that and see if that does anything the rest of as we close out the season. And Tommy White got up to Double-A for the Athletics. And finally, 20th round guy that we've kind of talked a time or two about, Evan Yates with Baltimore. 20th round guy, had never been a full-time starter in college. Baltimore drafted him, turned him into a full-time starter, and he's been more than serviceable. He got moved up to high A. This is a college guy, and so he is a little older than most at the level, but a 20th round guy, and he's making the conversion to starter, and he made it, he's gotten a promotion already. So just fun guy to watch. So
absolutely.
That's your promotions.
Dun, dun, dun. All right, Ben. So there is a question from Chad. He mentioned earlier with Tate out, who is the Phillies' future closer?
Closer or catcher? I thought he's.
I'm sorry. I just didn't want to talk about catcher, so I guess I just
that's
naturally
probably why he asked
closer.
Yeah, not you, is because
because I default away from it.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, I'll just read the question. That'll speed it up. Trade deadline question for Ben, friend of the show, is Jordan Disson's father. Does the Tate trade make Disson the current catcher of the future for the Phillies, or at least their future defensive catcher?
That's probably his better role, because so far his bat hasn't come with him. I think he's up to Double-A this year now, but the glove came up. Glove's still really good, but he's not hitting worth a darn. They'd have two other guys that are interesting, but they also play other positions. Caleb Ricketts, who has played, I was just going to pull it up here. Well, he is mostly playing catcher. He's been hurt a lot of this year, but a really good bat-first catcher that has some power to him. And then the other one is kind of my favorite type build of a catcher. He's listed at 5'11". I don't think he is. I bet you he's more like 5'8", 5'9", and he is listed 220. I bet you that's more like 230, 235. Like, this is your Alejandro Kirk profile as far as physicality. And that's Paul McIntosh is his name. And he's another guy, bat first guy behind the plate, but plays a really solid defense. Nothing great, but up to Double-A too. So they have some guys that could potentially play the position and offer one side or the other, either bat or defense. Disson's by far the best defender, and that's probably what's going to keep him on track with the team. Next year, I bet you he's starts the year in Double-A or Triple-A. He's not going to be backtracking by any means. But Ricketts and McIntosh, someone to keep an eye on, just because they've got bat enough to stick at the position. So,
all right. So maybe some work to do for the Phillies in the offseason as well to find some sort of additional depth if they don't like what they see. Ben, I know you've been busy writing, and now is as good a time as ever to promote that hard work of yours outside of our Pallazzo podcast Discord, which of course everyone is welcome to join for free. You can absolutely also follow Ben's writing. So Ben, give us some deets on where we can find it and what we can expect to read.
So I have two monster articles I do every year. The first one is, or this is the first one. The next one will be, I cover every single player who is assigned out to the Arizona Fall League. Those are the two times my typical weekly post on chasing baseball greatness on Medium, chasingbaseballgreatness.medium.com. It's called the 10-pack. And I usually have 10 players that I highlight, and that's it. 5 pitchers, 5 hitters. But this is, right now, it is more than 115 players. I'm taking all players who are minor leaguers primarily, who were traded in June or July this year. So 2 months worth of trades. And like I said, 115 players that I'm breaking down. I'm going to have at least a little something on every single one of them, which some of that can be, this is who drafted him, this is who he got traded for. And that might be about as much knowledge as I have. But It's an undertaking, and right now, so far, it's about a third done. So normally that comes out on Wednesday. We'll see how that goes.
All right, perfect. And now I'd like to give you approximately 1 minute to discuss anything Atlanta Braves.
Well, I put in here, is Hurston Waldrop going to be a thing?
55 seconds remain.
The big thing here is Hurston Waldrop switched up his pitch mix this year. He had traditionally been a four-seamer guy who used a lot of split fingers and sliders to go along with that. He has changed that. He changed his curveball. The Braves teach that kind of cement mixer, hard curveball that Luke Jackson really got well known for. And that's the curveball that they teach in their system. So he has now switched his curveball to that curve. And he came up this week when the Braves made a number of trades and suddenly needed some extra innings. Came in as the second guy in that night. And he's using a sinker first, and the sinker was his most used pitch, but he used 5 pitches and was a sinker, curveball, cutter, then his split finger, which he is well known for, and then finally his slider. That split finger is still freaking ridiculous. 83.3% whiff rate and 66.7% put away rate on that pitch in the game. I will be frank. I thought he was headed to be a reliever. I thought that's where his path was going. And then watching this game, I've watched it a second time just because I really wanted to see what he was doing. I think Waldrop could have a shot to stick as a starter. One big thing to note, his velocity on his sinker is notably lower than the four-seamer. So he's a guy that kind of sits in the 94, 95 range now, rather than a 96, 97 where he was as a prospect with the four-seam.
And he was initially thought of, as we've discussed here, a quick mover, could be up, see Spencer Strider, see Schwellenbach, see what could happen.
And that split is a big reason why, too.
Yeah. And what is going to end up happening is he eventually will come up with the Braves, and he'll get a few starts, and he'll be hot garbage. And then I'm going to pick him in my Jesus Take the Wheel pick, which is what we're going to switch to right now. Everybody, Braves talk is over. But Jesus Take the Wheel, for anyone who is not familiar, basically you need to find someone for multiple starts, not necessarily a 2-start pitcher for this week, but ideally what I try to do is find someone who's going to be a 2-start pitcher for next week. Last week I picked Patrick Corbin, who lines up for 2 starts this week. Last week you got 1 start out of him, 5 innings pitched. I think it was 6 Ks. I don't think he gave up any runs, but no wins, no losses. So we're calling that one positive. Prior to that, I wrapped up my time with Brad Lord, who had 4 1/3 on Sunday and got out right before the Nationals just started throwing meatballs the rest of the game and got boot stomped on Sunday night. So we're going to call his start a neutral one here. And prior to that, Jansen Junk. So those are kind of the names you're looking at here. So this week coming up, Cade Povich, he's back. He's got a tough start against the Phillies. I can't remember if it's Monday night tonight. Was it tonight
already?
Okay. He's already lost. Perfect. That's why we picked him.
Actually, it's
next
bottom
week.
of the 6th, and he's down 6-3.
Okay, so so this start, obviously, I mentioned it now, is not the one you count for him, but it's
7 strikeouts and 1 walk, though.
Oh wow, okay, well that's good. If you picked him up retroactively before I wrote this, good for you. And we're in on it together. We're going to call this one a neutral one, though, as Ben had said. They're not in the lead. He might take the loss, but the idea for this start is to take him for the next start, which is at home this weekend against the A's. And then we'll see what kind of position they're legitimately in for next weekend series, which he would also line up again. So Cade Povich is the guy, pitcher of record for us here. Now, Ben, do you want to throw us to that fun, exciting ad you've got? And then we will spend the second half of the show talking about what happened with the deadline.
All right, here we go.
So I go to a party and I got my choice of Coke or Pepsi. This isn't right. I want a Boku, a 7-fruit blend Boku. I mean, all this carbonation is very unsettling. I don't want to belch anymore. Belching is for babies. I want to be refreshed naturally, calmly. I mean, it's my undeniable right as a man of the 90s to quench my thirst in my own way. I want a Boku. I've had it. People invite me to a party, I'm bringing my own Boku.
Boku fruit juice cooler from McCain.
Is that too much to ask?
The adult
That's an ad.
juice box. That's that they build themselves as the adult juice box. So
Yeah, that's interesting.
I'm sorry, I saw the juice box thing and I was like, wait, we got to use that one. I don't think we have yet. So
Yeah.
we're on to our subject of the night, which is the fallout from Thursday's trade deadline. Now, I will tell you a little bit of thing here, Robbie. We have a gentleman in our town who recently passed away, 96 years old. He was at one point a part owner of the Minnesota Twins.
Okay.
And he became a good fan or friend with Carl Pohlad and got to know Carl very well. And his daughter is actually married to one of the Pohlads, one of the brothers. And so I had a chance to talk with her on Friday after the trade deadline. And her son is now actively working with Uncle Jim. Jim Pohlad is the one who runs the team now. There were three brothers, and Jim kind of got controlling interest of that. This lady's husband is controlling a different part of the Pohlad businesses and all that sort of stuff. But their son really wants to get into baseball, and so he's working with the Twins now. And she said, yeah, it's probably a good thing Dad isn't here to have conversations on this one, because he would have had an earful for Jim and my son. So
yeah, I mean, they were busy. No one's going to say Minnesota didn't decide to go one route. There was no confusion on what they did, but we've got prospects and some of the young players that are not necessarily prospects anymore, who are now in new exciting spots. We can lead off, or that can lead us straight into Minnesota. And I'm talking about Alan Rodon, Mick Abel, Rojas, a couple Blue Jays and a Philly, as we mentioned before. Mick Abel, I don't know that the landing spot's ideal, but I like that the opportunity seems like it's going to be there. And it, not necessarily this season as like the, oh, good, now he can start again. But like if Joe Ryan is in fact going to be the hot offseason ticket to move, then it could further open things up for Abel and Minnesota and other prospects. I'm trying to remember the name of the guy that I was thinking about before, who I thought was going to be up maybe a month or so ago, and it didn't happen. There are arms that could move now within Minnesota as they do this big reset. But in the outfield, they traded Harrison Bader as well. And kind of
Buxton's hurt.
Yeah.
So,
kind of did an interesting thing where like Rodon, I don't remember if he stayed up or not. Did he stay up or
yes, he's been starting.
Yeah, okay. I was gonna say because he should be in that lineup. I just hadn't
Well, it's an interesting thing because Rodon's left-handed, right? I believe he is. Anyway, he and I believe so. Yes, Bass left. And so is Trevor Larnach, and so is Matt Wallner. And right now, those are kind of your three guys that are moving around in the corner spots. And it's a really interesting group because Wallner is probably the guy of that I would be okay most with hitting a left-hander. Larnach really should be a platoon guy. And Rodon has had some pretty strong platoon spits so far in his major league career. So kind of interesting that all three of those guys are essentially comprising the corner outfield spots right now. One thing to say, they are playing Austin Martin a lot right now in center field.
I was just going to say he's got center field, left field from Sunday night, Wallner right field, Rodon right field, Larnach left field, and then Drew Kiersey Jr., who pinch ran, also went out to center field. So, I mean, tryouts are open right now at the MLB level for the Twins.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think if they fail, like you're alluding to here, Ben, there's going to be some tough platoon splits since they're both hit, or since the majority of these guys are hitting from the same side. This is where you need the wily veteran, however you traded them all away, to level this out. I think this could be a rough end of season if these guys aren't making contact, or maybe more importantly, if they're not drawing walks.
And this is where I think the two guys we mentioned earlier, that both Fedko and Gonzalez, I believe, are either both right-handers, or Gonzalez might be a switch hitter.
I feel like Gonzalez is a switch hitter. I'll look up on old Fedko.
Kyler is right-handed. Okay. So that's another reason why I could see them be part of things. And yes, Chad mentioned this too. And
that's right.
We both
hit the obvious one. That's the obvious guy to come up,
yeah.
Chad. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And it should be out.
But he isn't.
No, but we got two center fielders out, meaning, traded one away and the other one's hurt.
Yeah.
Outman, come on in. Alex Call went to the Dodgers, which I think was a brilliant play for the Dodgers, because Call's been, obviously I'm a fan of Call, but Paul's been a good bench type guy, and he has options if they fill themselves up, even next year, that he can still be sent down. But yeah, Outman is the obvious choice, but he just has not been able to be anything but a bit of a streaky guy since the mid-season point of his rookie year, 23. I think that's right. It was after 23 in the All-Star break time that he really started to trend down very negatively.
And I want to say, is he currently
are you thinking of options?
I'm wondering, is he even in the majors right now? I thought
no,
he hasn't played with the Twins.
I was going to say, I just mentioned 5 guys who played in the outfield on Sunday.
He is in St. Paul.
Yeah.
He is in St. Paul, and so far 2 games he has not recorded a hit. So, there you go. Not a good way to kind of push the envelope and say, play me. But that the other end of things there, we did mention Abel and Rojas. Another interesting younger arm that they acquired was Taj Bradley. And
yeah, that's right.
Before we had this conversation, or before we hit record on this conversation, you and I were talking about, Yohan Duran was originally acquired as kind of a secondary piece in a trade for a backup catcher. So he was really not highly thought of, and he was a starter at the time. Who's to say the Twins won't take Mick Abel or Kendy Rojas or Taj Bradley and turn them into their next holy crap closer?
Yeah.
I mean, they did that with Louis Varland this year to really big success, and I thought they got a really good return on Varland in France. To get Rodon and Rojas in that deal was a really good return, in my opinion.
And I think it showed the Blue Jays' ability to understand where they needed to address their limited prospect capital in trade, that they needed to get back, as they often have in the past, but they've come short on it, players with years beyond. Like they don't typically go get the expiring contract. They get, years of control. And that's kind of the case with Varland here, is they gave up a bunch of years, and in return they got back somebody who, albeit in relief, should be able to help them, because their bullpen, I mean, we're going to talk about it shortly, but their bullpen looks good now, which is great. That was the thing that they've suffered with in previous seasons when they've had decent goes.
And Varland for them was the perfect guy to seek out, simply because he's one of those guys that can go 2 or 3 innings, because he was a starter just last year.
Right.
And so that's something that the Jays, even with some of the other guys they did have, I did find it really interesting that immediately after the deadline, they DFA'd Chad Green, who I thought was at least a serviceable reliever, probably best served as a 6th inning reliever, not a guy you want in the back end of your bullpen, but still really interesting that he was immediately completely cut.
And it's possible there was more to do with that and freeing up the spot and things of that nature of like you could send a different pitcher down, but they would still be on your 40-man. You kind of needed to free up room. Possibly there's a fun conversation that could come out in 3 years about why that happened versus something else. But end of the day, it's a team that's looking to take advantage of their situation in the standings or their position in the standings right now. And he was the odd guy out because when they signed him, he was hurt. So they signed him to a 2-year deal. And I thought that this was his 3rd year with the club, but maybe I'm mistaken. And this is actually his 2nd year, or his first full healthy one. But expectations were certainly high for Green, as you know, as everybody in a bullpen that gets decimated, you start to focus on any veteran. And he wasn't able to do what they needed him to do. So, but anyway, Minnesota, lots of moves, lots of promise, and they'll be a fun team to watch. I mean, it's going to be last year's White Sox bad down the stretch if they don't hit, like I mentioned, but they seem to be poised for fun this offseason and tons of speculation. Like they're going to be an interesting one in the offseason to see what moves they do or do not make. You know, we have seen some of those silent teams before who end up frustrating the fan base because they were busy, you know, at the trade deadline and then they had nothing else to do because they want to see what these pieces can do. So I like what they did though, Ben. Do you think overall they made a good switch? Like I mentioned, they did commit to this idea of we're not being competitive right now, but they did not sell out for a group of A ballers and high A guys and say, talk to us in 3 years.
That's the big thing is I thought it was interesting that they initially, or that they got back so many guys that were right here Major League ready. On top of, you know, if you look at arguably 3 of the top 4 prospects that were traded went to the Twins. A lot of folks would have Rojas and Abel right behind Tait, who was a top 100 guy, as, you know, 3 of the 4 top guys, at least 3 of the 5 top guys who were traded as far as prospects. So they got really good return as far as talent, but they also got good return as far as guys who are Major League ready. And they kept together the Royce Lewis, the Byron Buxton.
Yeah, all the guys that are hurt all the time. You're right.
Joe Ryan, Pablo Lopez. I mean, the guys that you're going to have a solid 1-2 in your rotation in Ryan and Lopez to open the year next year. You got a guy like Buxton. You got a guy like Lewis in the middle of your lineup, you hope. And Luke Keeschel should be coming back this week. So that's a big thing for that lineup to add in another solid bat. Brooks Lee has actually looked more than may not be the defensive guy that Correa is, but if he can just hit enough and play a serviceable shortstop, that's a really nice piece for the Twins to just make room for finally. I think it's interesting. They kind of, you know, Willie Castro really your long-term anything? No. Right. So you got something for him. That's great. You know, I was impressed. I'm really sad they didn't get Owen Casey for him, but you know, that's, you know, you can only get what you can get. So, but
yeah, Minnesota, big switch. Athletics, Ben, we knew they were not going to be a highly competitive team this year. The ballpark made a lot of fantasy people really excited. They made a bunch of deals. They dealt away Miguel Andujar, who had a brief period of time injured, but has had a very good season. Left field, third base eligible in most of your formats. And he's with Cincinnati. Unfortunately, Cincinnati blocked him with Ke'Bryan Hayes coming in. So I don't know if left field, because they sent down Will Benson. I don't know exactly how much time he's going to get. He was producing very well for them. But they brought in, I guess, the highest ranked prospect in Leody DeVries. Yeah. They brought in Henry Bays and starting pitcher Brandon Nett, which I thought was a really interesting one. And this is, I'm going to call this the JP Sears trade, because I think everyone's going to say Mason Miller, but Sears is going to put more innings on his arm in the next 12 months than Miller will in the rest of his time with San Diego. That's just my prediction, because JP Sears, with a decent defensive team in front of him, will probably be a much improved pitcher statistically although he has been, banished in fantasy to no better, I'm sure, than SP4 status. And that's fine. But I think for fantasy guys out there, we're going to not mind the next few years of JP Sears. But the one guy that I mean, we know DeVries, he's already had a good hit. And for anyone in the Michigan area, Michael Govier, who used to be part of this podcast, the Prospects Power Hour, and is in or around the Michigan area. Lansing Lugnuts is the high A team for the Athletics right now, and that's where Leote is. And I did see video of him getting his first crack, and I think it was a double that he hit. And yeah, so he's arrived. He's there. What's that? 2L, 2 Z's.
Oh, Utah.
That's right.
Give me 2.
Yeah.
That one.
I like that I didn't understand what that meant, and I thought it was something cool and truck related, Jordan. But for anyone who's wondering why I just started talking like that, that's because they're commenting. They're commenting on the video on YouTube, Pallazzo Podcast. You can find us there. Twitter, all the things. What's the other one that we're on? Truth Social. Yeah. So anyway, what other athletics news do you see in this one here, Ben? Because I think it's fun what they did, but it's also kind of what we thought, right? They have the veterans, they trade the veterans, and I mean the gets with DeVries was good.
I really expected them to move more, to be honest, and especially pitchers.
Yeah, I wondered.
But Jack Perkins is now starting. That's kind of a big deal. I mentioned Henry Baez. I was just going to look up and see what level he's at, but I really like him. He's a long, lean sort of guy. He's in Double-A, but they're still starting him. I would love to see him potentially move to the bullpen. He reminds me a ton of someone like Derek Lowe, where the sinker slider combo works really well in the rotation in Double-A. But if you take that into the bullpen in the majors, it's not going to be the strikeouts everyone wants in fantasy, but it could be very, very effective because it's high velocity with a really wicked downward angle. But I was looking, the guy they got for Miguel Andujar has to be one of those elite baseball names, Kenya Huggins.
Yeah.
I believe that that is a pitcher. If I'm pulling this up, yes, a pitcher, and I think that when he was traded, his catcher was Amanda Hugginkiss. So we are now. All right, but
we are having fun.
Already out of that trade, the A's have put Eduardo Nunez into the bullpen.
Yeah,
out of that Padres trade. That is probably my biggest question here because I just don't know who I would trust in the back of their bullpen right now. If I'm a fantasy owner, Michael Kelly seems to me like the guy who's getting the hard outs right now, but he's not been consistent in the least. So yeah, I don't know who your guy is right now as far as the next man up in the
there isn't like a guy. Justin Sterner earlier in the year looked really good. I forget how long, but he had a lengthy was it hitless? Not hitless streak, but a runs given up streak. I don't know terminology for baseball. But anyway, once that got popped, he sucked to the point of demotion and then came back up, and now he is defaulted into the hold type position. Sean Newcomb, I'm a little surprised didn't move. Back to your point of should have been someone that maybe wanted him, but JJ Bleday got back up because of trades, and then I think it was Sunday he had an okay game, but Gio Urshela must not have any value out there in the world because they couldn't move him. I got to assume they would have wanted to. Just again, why wouldn't you? But they didn't have, like you mentioned, the arms. Like nobody would have wanted to pick up Severino at this point in time. But otherwise,
Springs, there's
Yeah, like the Springs would have been probably maybe that's a discussion that got started that will get finished in the off season, possibly.
Yeah.
Like I know how they talk about that happening a lot where they get into it and they think, let's not worry about that one today. And meanwhile, that's the one that whatever team stews on all off season. But yeah, they've got a lot of players moving in and out here and a lot of injuries, of course, like Gunnar Hoglund was up and then hurt, Luis Medina up and hurt. They have not been able to hold it down.
Hurt? Yeah,
yes,
Jose Leclerc was there. There's a guy who could have potentially been a closer, but he's out for the year.
Yeah.
So,
and Grant Holman also out for the year. So I'm just trying to look here in AAA to see, and the names are not familiar, which of course that happens, right? Like Tyler Ferguson, I've heard the name before, but there aren't really any other than Angel Perdomo. There aren't any veterans down here. Michael Otanis. I'm not even pronouncing that right because I'm a dummy. But I think he's
up right now too.
If anything, I would suggest you bring Mitch Spence back up and let him throw the ball really hard.
Is he in AAA? No?
He's in AAA starting.
Or majors.
No, he's in AAA starting, which is the odd part of that journey for him because they had him in the bullpen. He started a few times, then he got demoted. And I think they've just continued to keep him starting. But regardless, the A's are doing the reset and they're trying to pick up some pieces as they go here. So credit to them for moving what they did. The other team that, Ben, you have listed here, and when I saw it, I was like, that's the one that I want to discuss, is YouTube superstar Blaze Jordan, now out from under that high school drafted shadow and underachiever with Boston. He's now in St. Louis. And that was for Steven Matz. An interesting trade. I can't imagine how many pitchers the Red Sox have acquired this year that they have intended to either start or close for them. But I honestly don't know what you would want from Matz. So Blaze Jordan, though, is an interesting one to go back because, like, would you agree that there is opportunity in St. Louis in 2026 for Blaze Jordan to possibly see MLB time? Like, what do we got here? Contreras, is he on his way out? Does he have a year left?
I was just going to pull that up because I don't remember what their contract stuff is. But regardless, Jordan has really reclaimed his status as a future major league player over the last, 18 months or so. He has really, I think, kind of quietly done that as well, too, because like you said, he had the hype. Everyone kind of expected he was going to come into the minor leagues. And because he was hitting 500-foot home runs as a high school kid, they all thought, this guy's going to easily hit 30 bombs as a minor leaguer. And he's just never really done that. Now, part of that is I will give him credit that he has been working really hard to stay at third base. I kind of assumed he would go to first base, and he has worked really hard to keep in shape and take balls and keep in the type of shape that would allow him to stay at third base. And for a while, that was his primary position. And I kind of thought he might get a shot when Bregman was down, and they chose to keep sending Meyer out there. And it was not pretty, but Bregman's back now, so they don't need to worry about that. But it looks like, I was just pulling this up, it does look like Arenado and Contreras are both signed for a notably long time, like through 27 for each of them.
Like so I wasn't considering third base, Ben, but you are absolutely correct that should be a position they look to. And I think St. Louis wanted to trade Arenado last year, and perhaps the unsunny skies of another, unsuccessful season in 2025 might have him yearning that way, plus seeing what Paul Goldschmidt was able to do leaving and going to the Yankees and having his own resurgent year. Maybe that would lean Arenado, who is, of course, under contract, to go somewhere. Obviously, it's not Houston anymore, but to go somewhere that would make sense.
And that contract does for Arenado get at least, it's still not great because he's, going to be 35 next year, but $42 million over 2 years isn't anywhere near like trying to sell $32 million this year. So you were trying to sell essentially $75 million over 3 years. Well, now you're down to 42 over 2. That's a little different negotiating spot. You
Well,
might
Cincinnati,
still have
Ben.
to eat a little contract, but
Cincinnati's going to be paying, I think, $15 million next year to have Jamar Candelario playing the Dominican. You know, like there are bad deals out there. What's it? DJ LeMahieu with the Yankees, another one. But there are teams that would be okay saying that, like, Arenado's worst case scenario is no worse than what we see non-big market teams like Cincinnati eating, willing to DFA.
And even if they keep both Arenado and Contreras, I 100% could see Contreras going to a full-time DH role and then them using Blaze Jordan at first. So there's going to be opportunity for him here. And I think this is, for whatever reason, the Red Sox just had this thing with him, because there's no reason he shouldn't have gotten some chances at first base this year with the mess that they had at first base.
Yeah, good point. He has legitimately been, like, I'm just looking right now at the year-end totals for him. 21, he had a 324 average total in the minors. And I'm just going with a base stat line. I'm like, all of it is okay. The walk rate, not often over 10%, but the K rate peaked at high A in 2022 at 25.5%. Everything else has been what you would argue is elite, low strikeout rate, but not the high walk. But anyway, like, well into OBP 350 all across the line this year with Boston. OBP 341, 298 average. He's not hitting a million home runs, of course, but he's been good. Like, minor league 304, 373, 486 player. And
career minor league.
Career. Yeah. Like,
well, I was just saying, but that's just his career 290 hitter. Now, over, trying to think here, we're talking 449, so that's roughly 3 seasons. He's got 55 home runs. So that's not great, but also 114 doubles. It's not like he's not showing some level of power. It's just a lot of line drive power. And that can be extremely useful. And, especially in the right lineup, but I'm sorry, a 300 hitter is a 300 hitter.
If he's Luis Ariz, sign me up.
Well, I don't think you're looking at that, but I mean,
but I'm just as a power secondary thing, right? But Ariz,
if he's a Hal Morris, if he's Hal Morris or Sean Casey, that type of guy, is that the worst? That's not a bad thing at all. I think, like we've said, folks saw 500-foot tanks and they assumed that this is going to be a holy crap type of, guy. No. And just for the point, 43 games at first base this year, 42 games at third base. So kind of almost a perfect split. So just interesting to me. So anyway, that was the guy that one really stuck out to me. I think St. Louis's reliever trades to me were weird, because I really think I'm finding out I'm a really low guy on Jesus Baez. But that trade for Ryan Helsley, to me, even with a guy who's an upcoming free agent, seemed really, really, really shy. I thought that should be, especially when you see what guys like Doval got, what guys like, I mean, Doval wasn't great, but at least there was something legit there. What guys like, especially what guys like Duran got. And I mean, Bednar got a pretty decent, return.
Yep.
And then Helsley, like I said, there was a whole lot of stuff that was kind of throw it at the wall and hope something out of this sticks. And for a closer at the deadline, to me, it just seemed like there should be more.
Yeah, I agree there. So that can go right into our opportunity knocks segment. You were talking about St. Louis's bullpen. So it went from being a bullpen to a whole, I mean, I was just looking right now, a whole bunch of, the only lefty is Jojo Romero, who arguably should be ending games. And I'm looking at roster resource right now through Fangraphs, which I've got to say, I'm international for Fangraphs, and they are no longer posting ads. I'm not sure exactly why, but they said they're not doing it internationally anymore. So they recommend, I previously had, because the ads were overwhelming, I was like, joined partnership, whatever it is they call it with them, where you just give them money and you don't get the ads. But I dropped it and then found them to be frustrating with all the ads. So if you're out there and you're not, you're going through the ads, if you're on this website daily, as I have been for a very long time, once it's like YouTube, once you go from no ads back to the world of ads, it's super frustrating. I would ask you to contemplate donating to Fangraphs, not a sponsor, but much more enjoyable site without constant ad pop-ups, because they are in your face, and some of the audio ones too. But anywho,
so this bullpen,
this
me now is a whole lot of stuff, and nobody I really want to count on.
I want Gordon Gracefo to be pushed. Gracefo, thank you. To be pushed. I want to know what he is.
He has been just in watching him when the Braves played the Cardinals. He came in and he was upper 90s with a really good changeup and kind of an okay breaker. But that upper 90s, when he located it, was tough. I think he might have, I want to say the Braves got him for a home run and maybe even a couple runs one game. But the stuff is absolutely there. And that's just it. This entire bullpen, like Riley O'Brien can top triple digits. Kyle Leahy can top triple digits. Matt Swanson in the game I was watching hit 99. So these guys have some velocity. They have some stuff. Roddery Munoz that they just called up after the trade deadline, former Braves and Marlins prospect, 102 is his top end. These guys have, like I said, there's some velocity in this bullpen, but A, can they control it? And B, do they know where the hell it's going? It's one thing, you can control it and kind of put it in the strike zone, and the other end of it is, can you actually hit where the catcher wants it? And they kind of struggle with both. And that makes it really tough to rely on any of them in a for sure spot like closer.
Yeah. There's too much. I'm trying to find K. So how did you pronounce it? Gracefo? Gracefo. That's what I said. 27 2/3, and he pitched 24 Ks this year, but ERA, sniffing 6. I just, I want to see him be challenged. He's only had one save hold for the year. And honestly, like, I don't know. Sometimes you can, I guess we just did it with with the A's. Sometimes you look at a lineup, you're like, I don't know who I could slot in here. I guess that's why they are where they are in the standings, right? They don't have overachievers dominating or anybody on a run at the moment, at least. So, but man, even looking like Sonny Gray, Miles Mikolas, Libator, Michael McGreevy, and then Andre Plon is that rotation. Man, they couldn't move Gray. He must have multiple years left. And I'm not saying that's a negative to Gray, just like get a return back for a player. Okay. What other bullpens do you want to talk about? Minnesota, we did kind of talk about. We can talk about them at the end, maybe, of this segment. Do you want to talk about some Arizona? They
were fun because they moved maybe the most exciting player that moved at the deadline.
Oh, which one? Don't say
as far as a position player, in Eugenio Suarez, but they also moved Josh Naylor, oddly, both to the same team.
Well, again, that's one of those, you have the first conversation and you circle back. Maybe it's one of those, well, I'll give you this, go see what you can get. And then
I would almost guarantee when they moved Naylor, there were a lot of folks giving them phone calls on Suarez, and they kind of said, hey, good with this on Naylor. What's your idea on Suarez? Okay, we'll get back to you once we kind of do the circle here. But they also moved Merrill Kelly, and while he's injured right at the moment, they moved Shelby Miller out of that bullpen.
Yeah, that's an interesting move too.
So, and that one was, to me, was really interesting just because they moved Jordan Montgomery, who's going to be a free agent this offseason in that deal. And so just all money there.
I was just say that was also a mercy killing, right? Getting him out of Arizona, which should have happened last offseason. But
that was just, to me, it's really interesting to see the Brewers ever involved in a deal that involves money moving.
Well, yeah, and taking on starting pitchers, right? We said that they didn't need pitchers, and then they went and took them. So
Arizona corner infield is going to be very interesting because there is injury right now.
Yeah.
Pavin Smith and Jordan Lawler are both hurt, and so covering third and first base. Right away, they got Tyler Locklear in the Suarez deal from Seattle, and he has immediately stepped in as the first baseman.
Mm-hmm.
But the question then is, who's going to cover third? And they do have a few guys that they can bring up, but I do think it's very interesting. We talked about that Tommy Troy got the bump up. I kind of wondered if it was going to be him or not Gino, Lou James, Groover.
Oh, right.
Both of them are at AA and having solid years. Both of them can handle third base. I kind of wondered who might get that phone call to come up to AAA at least, and maybe even go straight to AA to the majors. Regardless, that's an interesting group. I don't know. Locklear is interesting to me. I want to see what he does. Whoever plays third base, unless it's Lawler, honestly, it's not going to move a needle for me.
Yeah, Blaze Alexander is pegged in there, and that's default. But because their catcher situation is also comical at the moment, where James McCann is in the organization, Adrian Del Castillo, who I'm quite high on, Jose Herrera is up, and then of course, like the present future is supposed to be Gabriel Moreno. So they've got three catchers on the roster right now, which is never a sign of a winning team. And their future, I would argue, is Del Castillo with Moreno, but Moreno is out for that future. So
am I mistaken? Didn't Del Castillo get a DH game or two?
Yeah, he's written in as DH. Yeah. So again,
I think that could be an interesting way to use him. But
absolutely.
With Arizona, as far as the other positions that they, with the bullpen and the starting rotation, there's lots of opportunities there. I'm not sure of anyone that you really want to jump on,
right?
Fantasy wise, that's going to be coming up into those roles, but it is something to kind of take note of, because a lot of times we've seen this with a lot of organizations where they sell off, they got a rotation spot for 3 months or 2 months, and somebody comes out and you look up and that person had a 3 ERA, a 1 WHIP, and like a 4 or 5 to 1 strikeout to walk rate, and nothing great, but it's like, now that guy probably put his name on a starting rotation spot next year with that performance, which gives them the opportunity to be fantasy worthy.
Do you want me to give you a name that happened to 3 off seasons ago, and everyone is, I think it was 3, and everyone is still waiting and wondering what the hell happened? Keaton Wynn with San Francisco.
Yeah, yep. I was just going to say it.
Serviceable.
I was just going to say somebody in San Francisco.
Yep. Serviceable. Went into the offseason. He wasn't a highly rostered guy in fantasy. Ended up being like in some of those drafts where you could pick, any prospect, like anybody under 15 innings pitched or 130 at bats. In those leagues, he was a top 50 guy, like no doubt about it. And he has just, not that he himself has done it, but he has not been given that opportunity. But the Diamondbacks went from being this really tight looking group that could do some damage this year and solid, and like, where are these guys going to play? I mean, we talked about it quite a bit, Ben, earlier in the year of like, there isn't a spot for prospects to move because they just have all these contracts locked up except for third base. And then Suarez, who we were like, get that bum out of there. Well, they got him out of there, but not as a bum. He got to leave, at a high for himself. But like Justin Martinez was the long-term, or is the long-term closer, hurt, right? AJ Puck, next man up, hurt. Rotation, Corbin Burns, out. It's just a lot of things went the wrong way.
And then they lost Kevin Ginkel.
Yes, that's right.
He's kind of a guy that you would assume right away is going to be the closer. Nope, he's now out. So yeah, it is one thing, and I guess I'd have to look if where he pitched most recently. Anthony Desclafini was really looking good as a reliever.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. They have on roster resource, they have him listed as a starter, but I really was impressed. He had a couple ticks up in his velocity, and he was really pounding the zone as a reliever with stuff that's just kind of right off the edge of the zone, or right on the edge of the zone, and really kind of making hitters look silly.
Interesting.
So that was a guy who I thought, well, maybe not a closer, but the type of guy who has the major league experience to possibly end up getting you a whole bunch of holds.
Right.
But if they're putting him into the rotation after they traded away Merrill Kelly, I was just trying to get a game log here.
Yeah, that's kind of going to go the other way on his likely effectiveness. When
looks like they started him on the first, of course.
Yeah, okay.
I was going to say, I watched him against St. Louis, and he did go 3 innings. So I guess he has been mostly pitching multi-innings in the bullpen, but it's been successful. I've been impressed. So, but it was not so much impressive when he started against the Athletics. They tagged him for 4 runs and 2 1/3 innings. So never mind.
Like they do have guys, not that they're going to bring them up, but they do have some names of interest for fantasy guys out there. Yumin Lin is probably their big one in the minors. Bryce Jarvis is a name somewhat from the past. Cole Drake, who came over Texas this year.
Gilbert Diaz.
Gilbert's, thank you.
And they got Uncle Ted. Is he still on? Uncle Ted's favorite guy, Cole Drake, is now with the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yeah. So that's another one. But so Minnesota we can do next, and then we can finish with Pittsburgh before we get into the teams with lost opportunities. So Minnesota, as we did kind of talk about before, I guess we'll just sum it all up. They moved and shaked, and we've discussed that outfield. Austin Martin, Matt Wallner, Trevor Larnach, Alan Rodon.
If you're playing well, if you're playing well in AAA, the infield and outfield will have places for you to play. I think Luke Keesh, like I said, Luke Keeschel comes back this week. I would almost guarantee he is back and right in a full-time spot in that lineup. Chad's favorite, Peyton Eels, is down in AAA. Very serviceable guy that could play a few different infield positions, so he might come up. If Lee is now locked in as the shortstop, they're going to kind of want a flexible defensive infielder. That's an opportunity there. But, guys like Gabriel Gonzalez, like we mentioned, Fedco, if Emmanuel Rodriguez could ever stay healthy, and just to kind of keep an eye on it, Walker Jenkins has been heating up in AA and could push for maybe a September call to set himself up for a 26 roster spot. So a little some interesting things, because they strip things down to the studs. Well, now they can potentially work in some guys that they might not have had a chance to see otherwise.
Yeah, like Cody Clemens is there, who came over from Philly earlier in the year. He's got the opportunity. He does have potential. Having rostered him last year, he doesn't have promise, I'll say that, but he could be power bat. He could have some okay but not dominant OBP. He just has not been able to be an average hitter at all as a major leaguer. And I think this is his 3rd team. I feel like he was with Detroit initially, and then he's moved around quite a bit. But digging deeper into their system, as we can now, because we're just going to have a look at it, there are guys, like you said, that could be fun additions to this team. And even like Thomas Hatch is listed as a starter. Wow. But Andrew Morris was the name I couldn't remember earlier. He could be a guy that they decide to pop up and give an opportunity to. Taj Bradley, as you mentioned, Ben, could be interesting in a few different ways. Mick Abel as well. The guys that you want to possibly have some movement with are like Kendrys Rojas, John Klein, and Morris, who will all be Rule 5 eligible as of December this year. So I don't know if that means they're up in the Rule 5 if they don't get put on the 40-man, but I think that's what it is. And if they state R5, again, I'm sorry, guys, I'm looking at the Fangraphs roster resource page. R5 means they were, because I find it fascinating that Blaze Jordan was not taken, but also sounds super reasonable at the time that an MLB team wouldn't want to put Blaze Jordan on their roster. Although now he's, traded in what I think is a future move. So anyone else on Minnesota or anything else worthy to discuss with them? It's so much promise. They're going to be fun. Well. Yeah. So let's get into a real kind of train wreck with no solution. Let's talk Pirates. Yet again, they didn't do the things since, like, Tommy Pham is still on this roster. Like
Andrew Haney. How is Andrew Haney? I honestly, folks just wanted to rip them for not moving Mitch Keller, and I think a lot of those folks are Yankee fans. But Mitch Keller makes sense. You keep a guy like that as your steady Eddie starter in the middle of a rotation that you want to have a lot of high-end type of starters on. But how the hell is Andrew Haney still on this roster? What the heck is someone like, like you said, like Tommy Pham still doing on this roster?
Yeah.
Why on earth is Joey Bart still on this roster?
So I assume Bart is just no value, because otherwise I'm right there with you. Yeah, because you can't.
Well, and they had some calls. There's some comments that people were calling on Joey Bart. And I'm thinking, if they called and offered you more than an empty gum wrapper, you take that.
Yeah, anything with promise, right? Like, you've got no one necessarily ready. I'm just looking at their AAA depth now. Rafael Flores, Brett Sullivan, Sean Ross. And if you're like, who are you talking about? Catcher options. Abraham Gutierrez is the other one. Now, the supposed catcher of the future is Andy Rodriguez, who has just been dreadful this year. I'm going to assume he's never been healthy, possibly walked into camp not healthy. This has been a wipe of a year for him.
Which is unfortunate.
Yeah, absolutely. Henry Davis is not your guy, but he's there. So he is the guy at the moment. But you like Spencer Horwitz, the trade that I loved, he for Pittsburgh. He's a guy that you're going to have sticking around for a while. Brian Reynolds, I guess you're keeping him around. It seems like it. You're probably going to extend Tommy Pham 5-6 year deal this offseason. I don't understand why. Otherwise, why is he not gone? McCutchen is that guy, right? McCutchen's the guy who just will be here, and that's the whole point.
That one I wouldn't have issues with. O'Neal Cruz on this team, don't really have an issue with.
Nick Gonzalez makes sense, but there's even Isaiah Kiner Falefa.
Yeah,
that's a guy you gave up something for last year, and I know he has not been great, but there's a team out there that would take him and be like, yeah, last year this and that, right? The situation's different. He had no value, or did you just not
Alexander, like someone young who has Alexander Canario has absolutely shown that he deserves to be in the big leagues. The Pirates have no idea how to use him. That's a big part of it. But this
because they got a bunch of 37-year-olds in the outfield and DH.
This is a guy who's a platoon bat that would work really well with a team that knew how to use him. You're telling me a 20-something, God dang it, I just was looking at it, a 25-year-old platoon right-handed bat, granted, that's short side of the platoon, but a platoon right-handed bat, you couldn't get even like a double-A infielder for?
Right.
I mean, the Braves got a freaking double-A infielder for Rafael goddamn Montero, who was DFA'd earlier this year, So, I mean, come on now. Let's be real on this. Yeah. But yeah, it makes no sense. There's a lot of guys here who it would be great to see them get some run in the major leagues so you knew what the heck you had going into this offseason. But the big thing to me is they did actually trade a couple of starters, which you would think would create space, except that Johan Oviedo came back and took one of those spots tonight. Mm-hmm. So he's returning to the rotation. And then they kept Mike Burrows. They brought up the first guy when they knew that they were going to need innings. The first guy they brought up was Oh, wait, no. It was Thomas Harrington.
Yeah.
So still Bubba sits in AAA. Just kind of blows me away. That guy's
Harrington's
going to
back
end up
down
going
now.
all year.
Like
Yeah, Harrington
Harrington's
went back down now.
Yeah, like
he
Skeens,
came in
Keller,
and
Oviedo, Burrows, and Heaney are your rotation. 4 of the 5 under 30. And again, Heaney, like 1 year deal. He is, I don't know, maybe nobody wanted him. Like maybe they just figured it was worth it to suppress. You know, maybe they figured financially or whatever, it's worth it to get this extra year of these other guys than it is to trade Andrew Heaney and then have the roster spot opened up. Perhaps. I mean, again, I don't know. But I just, come on, Pittsburgh, you know, like,
yeah,
you saw what Minnesota did, right?
Sense.
They made moves, and you're not an empty system. You're a system with promising guys and guys who you could just give opportunity to that might not work out. And that wouldn't be the worst thing, but you've given them the opportunity. And we've seen it over and over again with these guys that Pittsburgh just doesn't work them in and leave them there. You know, like Horwitz is almost an exception, but he wasn't like a fresh to them rookie when he came in, but he struggled early and he continued to play. But everybody else seems to like, okay, now you're a bench player. Okay, now we're going to send you back down. All right, now we're going to move on to Wiley veteran we picked up off waivers. And Wiley meaning like parts of 3 seasons, but only a half a year of service time in total. Yeah, they're an upsetting team. I don't want to talk about them anymore, Ben. Let's go to opportunity loss, which maybe that's where Pittsburgh should have been, because their opportunity was to make a change and they didn't do it. So Toronto, the rotation in the bullpen. What do we want to say about that? I mean, I was impressed with what they did with the bullpen. Yeah, and impressed as far as like they made themselves better and they didn't crush their current roster.
And I think that's really the thing. We had talked that Toronto could go out and really try to be the big dick swinging and take out someone like Trega Savage, you know, and say, hey, nobody else is going to offer you a pitching prospect like this right now, which, you know, Mick Abel, you can make at least a decent argument, or even Kenton
that was the big trade.
You know, but that's the big picture that moved. You know, that's the big picture that moved comparatively. I think Savage is a better overall prospect than either of those guys.
Yeah.
And they pretty much said, we're willing to make moves. We're willing to put a Rojas at a DL, but we're not willing to go that far. And that, to me, that was smart. But I really like, they didn't go out and, I mean, they didn't get any rotation spots, or rotation guys, but I kind of was just watching and going, boy, I wonder if they don't try to make a move that then opens up a rotation spot. And they didn't. They just said, you know what, we're good with this. I almost kind of would have liked to see a depth guy.
They did make that miss. They did miss that, I'll say for sure, because they had a double header after the deadline and Easton Lucas came up and just got his teeth kicked in. And that's the guy that earlier in the year had a very good start out of the gate. And that was the end of that for him. And they don't have, I'm looking right now, you got Adam Macco, never played, Lorenzo Estrada, you're not doing that to him. Robinson Pena, not doing that to him. You don't have another guy. So you are high risk heading in now, outside of Shane Bieber coming in, which was your big move. That was the one that you are taking a huge risk on having him come back, or sorry, I shouldn't say come back, him join you, because he's at least two starts at AAA in, and bumping out Eric Laurie, whatever, moving him out. And then you've got the potential of Alek Manoah. And I don't think that's reasonable, but that's, you know, that was my thought maybe 3 weeks ago, that you would have him continue to come back for an actual playoff run if something happened. But you don't have the Andrew Heaney guy that you can put in if you need to. And your long men in the bullpen are not veteran-y guys that you can really rely on. Mason Fluharty debuted this year, Braden Fisher, and then you've got, you know, Brendan Little and Tommy Nance with some experience.
I would really like Eric Lauer in that bullpen spot. I think that's, you know, it gives you a second lefty that you can kind of lean on. Brendan Little has been excellent this year as kind of the primary lefty.
In a role.
In
like
a role.
In the role
yes.
he's in. Not
Yes, absolutely. And Lauer is a guy who could come in and kind of be your fireman that sometimes comes out and gives you 2, sometimes comes in the 7th when you have a whole bunch of lefties coming up, but you want to leave little for potentially needing him in the 8th or 9th. That's completely he's absolutely that guy and could do that. This is, to me, you now have bullpens in New York and in San Diego and in, I don't know, I'm trying to think who's the other holy shit bullpens in the league right now. I mean,
well, the Yankees are supposed to be. They just blew it in Miami, but Bednar apparently has a horrible ERA in Miami, and that was coming.
Both New York teams. That's why I was like, there's 3 that I kind of thought coming out of the trade deadline really established a talent surplus in their bullpen.
Well, in Colorado, right? You mentioned you were going to mention
them too.
Other than Seth Halverson got hurt. Seth Halverson got hurt.
I think the next tier below them now might be a team like the Jays. The Jays and the Cubs, I think, both kind of moved to themselves firmly just underneath that level. They aren't at the same level as the Padres. There aren't very many bullpens that are as far as raw talent, but both the Cubs and the Blue Jays now aren't relying on 2 guys in their bullpen. Yeah. They have 4 or 5 guys.
They can now go into a series, and in 5 games in 7 days, they can work through 4 dudes at the back if they want. And if Yariel Rodriguez is effectively pitching, he's not throwing a lot because it's blowing right by guys. Like, they're missing it.
Yeah.
So in that scenario, it's great. But yeah, as mentioned, the other thing I would say about Toronto and the missed opportunity, they've got Anthony Santander out long-term. Springer is now hurt, which whatever. You don't always know these things. Andres Jimenez as well. They got Ty France as a veteran, backup multi-position guy, really first base, but multi-position guy, DH, whatever, however you want to say that one. Davis Schneider has been someone that OPS is okay, average is below, but he's a bench guy for you that was up and down this year. With injury, Joey Loperfido has come up from Buffalo. Ernie Clement has been arguably your best player. You've got Vlad and Bo doing those things. Addison Barger hits the ball hard. Alejandro Kirk is good. Dalton Varsho is now back. And Nathan Lukes is somehow in your lineup every night.
Still successful.
Yeah. But they didn't go and get a veteran. Like, they're obviously good with Tyler Heineman as the catcher, backup catcher. They didn't go and get a veteran catcher. Miles Straw and that ridiculous deal with Horowitz leaving. He has been on that roster all friggin' year, and once every 3 weeks he has a game, and then you're like, oh yeah, Miles Straw has got some, not left in the tank. The guy's not 35, but he does enough that he's able to stick around. But he's not a guy, honestly, I think I want on a playoff roster that's going for. I just don't see how this lineup is in an ALCS and dominant without the pitchers being the Barrios, Gosman, Scherzer, Bassett, without them doing it. And again, put Shane Bieber in this. That's a hell of a rotation.
Yeah. That's going to be really solid going into the playoffs.
Yeah,
but
5-man rotation to go.
How is a team that is starting and has been lately starting Nathan Lukes as your leadoff hitter, a legit playoff, a legit argument as the best team in the American League? How is that
they'll
case?
Have the worst odds, right? For all the degenerate gamblers out there. Toronto's going to be a great team
in Cleveland
to bet on because they're going to have such low odds. And the one thing that, or not the one thing, but the throwing side of the ball, the pitching, is what will be the reason that they do or do not win, because it's going to be low scoring games. And of course, you're going to have your volatility. It's baseball, right? Because baseball. But the Jays have great pitching depth in the rotation. And if Bieber's able to come up and be effective, and in a bonus scenario, Alek Manoah is able to come up and go into your bullpen, then you could have a really good bullpen, and you don't need to do anything stupid like the Rays did, where you pull Snell after 70-some pitches. But you can play your veterans, and then it's a matter of, which I will argue has been, patched together all year, your patched together lineup without your established players in roles outside of Bichette and Vlad, and you can argue Kirk as well, and Varsho, sure. Let's say 4 of your 9. I'm being friendly and saying 4 of the 9 are in roles that they should be in. So less than half your damn lineup.
Andres Jimenez is supposed to be maybe coming back this next, or supposed to be starting rehab games this next week. Springer will be back probably within the week. Because that's a concussion one. But even then,
and that's Loper Fido out, and
Jimenez,
him up. Yeah.
You're benching like your best guy. You're benching Ernie Clement if you bring Jimenez back. So it is
I think
kind of
you bump Barger, but I'm not sure exactly how that. Anyway, it's what I was hoping for was like depth move, and again, not a Jays fan, but in Jays land, hoping for them to make moves that solidified, because all of the people around me that love to talk to me about, the Jays are doing this, and absolutely, but they are pitching. They are pitching dominant, and I love it because it's a good spot to be in. But they just had the opportunity, as every team did, to get some depth within your bench, and they got France. Give them credit for that. But they gave up a lot within that deal for Luis Farland as the other piece. And we'll see how that plays out. Anywho, let's go to a team that has rotation woes. Is that good, Ben?
No, my point here is this was when we talked about opportunities for rebuilding trades. I guess most of these were opportunities for a prospect to possibly have that disappeared during the deadline. And the Royals having an opportunity in their rotation is one that really disappeared. And I can't say that I exactly think that it's a smart thing. Ryan Bergert and Bailey Falter are the 2 guys that took rotation spots. And I don't know. To me, I'm not saying that you should be all over guys like Kyle Wright, because Lord knows there's a whole lot of what are you getting there. But then again, they also brought in Stephen Kolek, so you've got a whole bunch of guys you're not going to give opportunities to your current minor league guys. One of the ones I was looking at possibly coming up, because he's been solid, is Ben Caderna, and he is Rule 5 this winter. He's going to have to be figured out what you're doing with him. And same thing with Frank Mazzucato, although I don't know. You just might have screwed that one. That just might end up being one of those you kind of got to eat.
And it happens in every draft.
Yeah. But I mean, Ben Caderna has actually been pitching fairly well this year. It would be interesting to see him at some point over the next 2 months, except that I can't imagine you want to bring him up to put him in relief. So now you're you closed up any opportunities for him to give you a start or two and just see what you have. I mean, granted, lots of doubleheaders could happen to where you have an opportunity to give a guy a 1-start doubleheader look sort of thing. But other than that, that rotation is pretty darn well set at this point.
They had the misfortune. That's the word I was going for. Of Bubic going down. The year itself has had Marsh, Reagans, Michael Lorenzen all spending time on. Michael Massey,
which is
can't get his life
together. Kind of why I thought there might be an opportunity together or there.
Yeah,
but then that would have required them to say, you know what, we're throwing in the towel. And I think they thought they still have a shot. And so they went for it, which good on them. That's, I'd rather see teams keep trying. That's always a good thing.
The Angels did it, right? The Angels did it last year or 2 years ago. And once they realized, I think they did that and then lost.
Like a big cut.
Then they lost a whole bunch of games or something happened. And they were like, I got to cut to get under the cap. But I appreciate them for doing that. They also extended Lugo this year, which is one of those nice moves to see. You reward your veteran, but like the rotation is not the one. Like Michael Wacha and Seth Lugo are the only guys from opening day who I think you were like, yep, that's part of their cores of our rotation. But But yeah, Bailey Falter, Ryan Burgett, Noah Cameron. Not who you want up on your competing team, but they did add Grichuk. Who else did they add at the deadline? Adam Frazier was pre-deadline, but kind of deadline. Mike Yastrzemski was a very interesting add. I guess they're hoping for better days for him ahead. Yeah, they're an interesting team for sure. But I don't know, man. When I look like this, oh, geez. They've got promise here. And I know Sal Perez was on a tear the last, 2 weeks or so. Massive power coming from Sal. But yeah, where are they overall, Ben? Are they in a play? Do you know, are they in a playoff spot at the moment?
I'll
look it up.
Gosh, coming into tonight, there we go. I was just going to say they and Cleveland kind of tend to bounce back and forth.
Right.
Cleveland is ahead of them starting tonight, and that puts Cleveland 3 games out of the wild card.
Royals 7-3. Cleveland obviously looking to turn the other way, understanding they're not catching, and the wild card is going to be out of it for whomever, because it's either getting scooped up by some mixture of Seattle, Texas, Yankees, Red Sox, Blue Jays, and of the Yankees, Red Sox, Blue Jays, one's getting the AL East title. So yeah, it's tough. It's tough. KC needs to keep going on that heater of theirs. Yeah.
So Seattle, the opportunity lost here. Coming into this trade deadline, you could have said somebody who played first base or third base in the Seattle organization. Ben Williamson is a great example of a guy who could get some run. And then they went out and they acquired those positions. And not just that, they got rid of probably their closest first baseman to the majors in Tyler Locklear.
Who's now playing first base in Arizona.
Yeah, exactly. But that's really an opportunity that was kind of wide open on a playoff contender, and that's absolutely shut down now. So good. That's kind of what they wanted to do. They went out and they got what they wanted, but at the same time, it is an opportunity that isn't there anymore for a prospect to come in and have a good run to end the year.
The one interesting thing about this, Ben, as far as contractual status goes, is that there could be some turnover next year. Like Suarez is pending free agent, right? He must be. They wouldn't have dared acquired him again for that. Polanco, I can't remember if he's out or not. I feel like 4 of their dudes are now, when I was looking earlier, 5, I guess, if I'm counting Donovan Solano, not counting the other bench guys. But yeah, like Crawford's back, Cole will be back, Canzone, Naylor, Rodriguez, Raleigh. I don't think Randy Arozarena's returning or not. But anyway, they've just got the opportunity to reset if this doesn't work out, which is, going to be a little harder now because they, like you just mentioned, they've got gaps. But the one thing that Luke Raley getting hurt wasn't ideal. Victor Robles lost for the year. They might be able to have Robles come back on some sort of agreeable deal because he was amazing for his brief time, which was now it started a year ago, something like that, right? End of season. Yeah. He was on a big tear. The bullpen's still solid. They're an interesting team, but as I'm looking here at the standings, they have been 500 and they need to be a 6 out of 10 team the rest of the way.
They absolutely need to go on a heater. That's for sure. Which is unfortunate because it's kind of like the Twins all year. You kept looking at the Twins going, why isn't this team doing better than what they have been doing? But that's...
And I was looking at Williamson earlier, and I know Chad just made a comment in the chat about it.
Pull that up here.
Yeah, like Williamson to me just seems like he doesn't offer enough to be at a corner position because he's not a power bat. He's not stealing bases to make up for it. He's a smart hitter, but he's got to be, he needs to be a little more exceptional in one trait to really do it. Like an Ernie Clement in Toronto at third base, you're not over the moon for because you're not seeing the stat accumulation that you would typically think of those guys. But it is defensive. It should be, I should say, defensive minded first, but that's why you're putting them at that position. Otherwise, they could probably slot in somewhere else if you're not caring about the defense. But Williamson maybe just needs to be a pro longer and adjust and then start to see that uptick, because we've seen it with Julio of all Mariners. We've seen Julio take a step back, and only now, like, what was it, almost 2 full years that he underachieved and is now, a top 30 type offensive player in baseball again, with long-term aspirations. And a big part of that is the fact that Cal Raleigh is smacking him in or being driven in by him, or, like they're working together. Oh, Chad with the excellent reminder of he lasted longer than Evan White. Remember Evan White, probably still in the Angels organization and getting paid by that. But anyway,
getting paid by the Braves. But
oh, that's right. That's what happened. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So, which, by the way, Jared Kelenic back up to the majors. Yay.
There you go.
You can tell I'm excited.
Teams on the rise. Teams on the rise.
We were talking about Cole Young in Chad's point here. Cole Young is actually, he has had really hot and cold streaks. He's on kind of a hot streak again.
Yeah, he's been very
in
good
the series against the Rangers. But man, he has had some monstrous swoons, but has been very steady defensively. And Jorge Polanco is not that. So I don't know if they want to give up the steady defense that Young is giving them and bring in Polanco like Chad was talking about. That just would not be good at all. So
yeah, Young has nosedove, I will say, 5 for 29 the last 2 weeks, 172 average. He does have a home run within that.
But if you look at his last series, the last 4 games against Texas here, he was smacking the ball all over the field in that series. So I mean, it is kind of a weird. Like I said, he'll go on like 2 series where they're bad, and then a series or 2 where he is just great. And he doesn't ever seem to have a series where he gets a hit every 3 at bats. It's like he's hitting 500 in a series or he's hitting 110. So,
well, prior to last week, his line for the month looked really good. I feel like he was approaching 300 average plus production. Of course, I don't remember the details of it, but as far as we're concerned, he was helping. And he's now up and over that rookie threshold number. So he will be and is forever to be called a veteran, but still in his rookie season. And I think he is just doing that rookie up and down thing. So we could continue to talk about Seattle, but this has already been a long one. And we were concerned about things to say, Ben. So let's finish it off as every game does end with the bullpen. And let's go to the one that made the biggest impact, arguably, and talk Rockies. No, let's talk Phillies. And they added the man, right? They added Johan Duran to a bullpen, very much like Philly and NHL has not been able to have the goaltender. The Phillies have not been able to have the closer. They drafted Oren Kierking 3 drafts ago. Was that right? 22, 23, 4 drafts ago in 2022. And everyone's like, that's the guy. Well, he has not been a lockdown guy by any stretch, but he is in that save hold situation. Matt Stram has come and gone from that role. Jordan Romano was a flyer they took this year, and he has just not been able to be consistent. So they got the guy.
I like the way that this sets up now, because you push Duran there. You're going to have Jose Alvarado coming back soon, but he won't be there for the playoffs. And everyone who was saying, well, Alvarado, he's going to get all kinds of saves the last 2 months. I said, no, they want to get a closer that they know is going to close in October. And they know that Alvarado is not going to. And so he may come back and he'll help them get there. But this lines up their bullpen in a good way, because you have Kirkering and Stram, who can kind of be your 8th guy, depending on who's coming up. If it's a lefty heavy lineup, you throw in Stram. If it's a righty, you throw in Kirkering. It allows Romano to really be a 6th, 7th inning guy. And that's huge.
Out of the jam and turn it over. And I think he'll excel in that role.
Yeah. And that's, I like Seth Johnson's stuff. I've loved him a lot since he was like a Baltimore or maybe Tampa, whoever originally got him. He was
Baltimore.
He was a fun reliever, or a fun starter that you knew would become a reliever, is a better way to put it. And he's turned into a pretty good reliever. I mean, this could be like the Blue Jays bullpen, where you could end up having 4 or 5 guys deep here pretty quick. But before, in order to get that, you were relying on someone like Seth Johnson, and now you're not. He can kind of step up and be that guy, or Max Lazar could be that guy, or Tanner Banks could be that guy. You aren't relying on them as we need you to give us productive outs. You could suddenly come up and give us some really good outs and go, okay, hey, this is a guy who could maybe do some things in the postseason for us because he's had an opportunity to do them in the 6th inning and get his feet wet, rather than being thrown into the 8th inning in a bullpen with no closer. So
yeah, like they look good and they got a great lineup, and good things on the rise. I feel like Chad mentioned something about the Angels.
I was going to go back. He talked about Bremner, and I guess, Chad, I'd have to ask what you're talking about as far as any word yet on Bremner. He's signed. I mean, that much we do know. I was trying to pull up here. But he signed like a while ago. He signed for 7.7 million.
Yeah.
So quite a bit under slot value. But
that'll all be part of next week's show, which we could lead into now.
So it's a really fun preview there. But I haven't heard anything about. I don't know what you're talking about, whether he's hurt or whether I haven't heard anything about that. From what I understood, he wasn't going to pitch the rest of this year regardless. So he wasn't going to be a guy that they pushed this year just because, quite frankly, I'll be blunt. The guy lost his freaking mother this year. He pitched through that. And there was a lot of discussion that he basically wanted to get drafted, and he'll go to like your instructional league, but he wanted some time to be with his family because he tried to pitch through all of the stuff that went on with his mom. And legit, the guy has the opportunity now to have $7 million in the bank and spend some time with his family. Cool. I'm really glad he can do that and then start his pro career next year. Good for him.
Well, I do believe he has been pegged as the opening day starter for next year.
Yeah, but, well, I mean, it is the Angels, so
he's on the
he'll be starting before Memorial Day at least. So that's almost a given.
Yeah.
So
So anyway, we'll wrap it up here next week for whomever is left and listening. We do appreciate you. Thank you very much. We are going to do the 2025 MLB draft recap. So we've already tipped it off with some signing information. The deadline passed on the 28th of July, and Milwaukee was obviously busy. That's a team that Ben and I, and apparently a bunch of other people, are now focusing on. I mean, let's say it first, Ben. We were there first. We were watching the Brewers work it. So we're going to talk about the things that did happen. Only a few players in the top 10 rounds that we thought could sign did not sign. I think 1 second-round pick from the Pirates did not sign. We'll talk about all that next week.
No.
And get into, kind of final draft grades. Perhaps we'll do something fun like that and just go through random of the top classes and the bottom and all that fun stuff. But on behalf of myself, Ben, and Michael Govier, who is a gorilla in the mist, thank you so much for listening to. I love throwing him under the bus. He'll never hear this, but if he does, I can't wait. I can't wait to hear about it. Anyway, we thank you very much, and we will see you on next week's show. Okay. Love, peace, hair grease.